the year ahead, let's call it the year of the dragon. And when I made the bog introduction video, I had indicated that if you do time and you believe it's 2024, Happy New Year. What I'm going to do for you today is give a kind of a forecast for the year ahead. Let's call it the year of the dragon. And I'm going to focus on the eclipse for Monday, April 8th of what we call 2024. And I'm going to use the location of South Woodstock, Vermont, because that is the location of my property in Vermont at 3:35 p.m., which is UTC 1935. So in your area, it might be a slightly different chart, but I'm going to show you the chart for my area because I can focus on what has already happened in my area, which has been kind of a test for what we think could happen in the year of 2024 or the year of the dragon. So this is a way of introducing magic also, because the high-level sorcerers always use the astrology, or what we consider the seven heavens with the fixed stars. And so when I do this, I'm going to do a little bit of the clock, right? So we have the clock with an ascendant degree and the configurations in the seventh house, which in this chart make a grand trine kite. And we're going to look at the element and mode of that kite to wonder about what might happen and what the sorcerers might be planning, as they also use this information of the appearance of the planetary heavenly bodies, or what I call the archons. So to get started, every chart has all elements of earth, air, fire, water, and each of the signs have one of those elements plus a mode, meaning is it cardinal, is it fixed, or is it mutable? And that mode is important because the mode in a mutable is kind of mutable everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. So let me give you some examples. Cardinal water is Cancer. So cardinal water begins like a little trickle of water. That's Cancer. And then Scorpio is fixed water. So that's when the water is flowing and there's plenty of water for everyone and the ponds are at capacity, and that's great. Pisces is mutable water, which is kind of water, water everywhere. Water here, water there, water everywhere. So I'm going to start with that. So we're going to look at the chart. And what we can see is that in Pisces, we have the grand trine kite. And it kind of doesn't matter where the location is for this. This is absolutely a kite because we have Black Moon Lilith in Virgo making an opposition to Nessus in Pisces. Water, water everywhere. We have both malefics in Pisces, so we have Mars in Pisces and Saturn in Pisces, and the asteroid Washingtonia. Washingtonia, or what's called Washington, is on the oldest river, the Susquehanna River, which is older than the Nile. So this is the really aged, old water of Washingtonia. Okay, and we also have Ceres, the goddess of the grain, sextile to Nessus, and Jupiter within a 3-degree orb of Uranus, some major flipping of the script with Earth. Goddess of the grain, food, resources, structures that allow those food and resources. Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus flipping, okay? And that is the trine to Ceres, the agriculture and the structures of agriculture. And what they are sextile to with grace and ease is Washingtonia, Nessus, which is the dark red object in the sky that in 1907 also came together with Saturn and Pisces, so I've already discussed that. But we also have Mars, and Mars is a timing event because Mars is the ruler of the eclipse node, which is in Aries. So I've spoken for 5 minutes. This is already a lot of astrology for many of you, but I'm going to get to the point. But I do have a lot of students right now, and I want them all to be studying at this level. So we have an amplification grand trine in Earth with its outlet to the two malefics in water, water everywhere, mutable water Pisces with Nessus and Washingtonia. Not only that, but we have this wonderful spiritual fog type of thing happening also in Pisces since 2012, when we had a year of the dragon also in 2012. Neptune entered Pisces, which made for that beautiful spiritual fog that we were ascending and everything was going great. And we still have Nessus there kind of playing the spiritual fog opportunity game. So when we have Earth and sextiles to water, generally that's the amplification of the water, water everywhere throughout the element Earth, okay? And here's Black Moon Lilith over here in Virgo. And the outlet again, Washingtonia, and Saturn and Mars, the two malefics. So that amplifies water. And the water, water everywhere is what we had in Vermont here for about 3 months. Our last flood was in December 18th. And what happened with that water, water everywhere is they were not able to repair roads. A lot of bridges needed to be repaired, and the rocks were put up the bank to hold the earth, but every time it rained, it started to liquefy, and the earth under the rocks would give way. So a lot of dams had to be rebuilt. Many roads are still closed because trees are still falling across. What also happened here in Vermont during this experimental phase was that a lot of properties were taken, will never be used again, are on the floodplain of what FEMA calls the flood zone now. So those people were given units in trailers to live in, but they were not necessarily helped to have their properties restored. Culverts are still full everywhere. And the culverts then, when they're full of stuff, the water just runs over the road and through people's houses. So that has already happened here in Vermont. And I hear that that is happening in many places that are usually quite dry. So the water, water everywhere is where Nessus has been for quite some time. Saturn is going to join it. Then Mars is going to join it. As a timing event, this is a beginning of something on April 8th. And what my astrology students know is that whenever you have a new moon, this is the north node that can last for 1,000 years. So it's an 8-fold incarnation cycle of 8 different lifetimes. Each lifetime is about 120 years, or it is supposed to be, so that an eclipse like this is for 1,000 years. And whatever energies start to happen during this eclipse, they could last for 8 different lifetimes. And whether you are coming back into this loop or not is up to you, but I'm going to read it to you. The moon will be what appears to be in front of the sun, and this would be the earth, okay? That is conjunct Chiron. And Chiron is that wounded, hybridized product of rape outcast, which I've made other videos about Chiron. But what's important is the degree. The degree to the fixed star is Cetus, the whale, or the sea monster. And what that portends is the belly of the sea monster, Cetus, portends shipwrecks and various disasters at sea. Okay, and water. So Cetus is the whale or the sea monster, which is the fixed star at this degree where the eclipse is going to happen. Now, does that relate to this? The fact that Mars, as a timing event, the ruler of this 8th house Aries, is moving toward Saturn and Nessus and Washingtonia. So that means that this ruler of the node is the timing and the action, so that we can see by the transit when it actually makes the conjunction with Saturn and then it actually makes the conjunction with Nessus. Then, things will really be happening. But we should be aware of what this means. The other thing I found quite interesting is that in this location, the ascendant degree, which also happens to be the fortune, because the ascendant degree is a calculated point for the time that this appearance is most profound here in Vermont. So this will be a visible eclipse, and wherever it is visible, that's where it will have the strongest effect. It will affect the entire realm, but it will be visible from Texas to Maine, and I'm doing the location in Vermont when it's most visible. Amazingly, we have an ascendant degree, part of fortune, and Juno at 666, which I think is quite interesting. And I'm just the astrologer. I'm not even an occultist. I don't even know what that means exactly. But 666 Virgo, I do know, is the star Thuban. Okay. And the star Thuban, which I wrote about here, is a somber nature, a penetrating mind. The fixed star Thuban is known as Alpha Draconis. And Alpha Draconis is the Draco constellation that is identified as, quote, a large snake, a python, a legendary draconian serpent. Earlier astrologers called this constellation the, quote, poisonous dragon, which is the pollution of rivers and air. So that's our ascendant degree. So what an ascendant degree means is this is the vitality of the chart. This is the life breath or the birth of the chart, is this dragon. And guess what? 2024, 2012, 2000, and 1988, all of which were very profound years in my opinion. I remember all of those quite well, were also Year of the Dragon. So 2024, 2012, 2000, 1988. Those are incredibly profound years of big change. And again, because the ascendant degree is at the 666, it has something to do with this poisonous dragon, pollution of rivers and air. Now, as an astrologer and an intuitive, I was already feeling into this and talking with some of my students about what this might mean. This 8th house is the house of death. Okay, Sun, Moon, Chiron, North Node, Satis, the sea monster. In the 8th house, it's the beginning of the hybridization and potential death through these drowning events of the sea monster. Another way to think of this, because this 8th house does not configure to the ascendant, it has no geometric aspect to the ascendant. It's like something is going to be quite hidden from us. There's going to be something happening that we will not even understand that is the cause of it. With the clear nature of Pisces, it might come from water. And what they did here in Vermont is they said, okay, the septic and everyone's propane tank just mixed with the water and everybody's well is contaminated, so you can't drink your water. Here's free bottled water. And at our little fire department, there were cases and cases of free water, none of which I drank. Do you hear me? None of which I was willing to drink. All of this free water. But there was water everywhere and not a drop to drink. And that was the first thing that I started to realize. And some of my astrology students can back me up because I've been saying this to them already. I'm getting this feeling of it'll be water everywhere, not a drop to drink. There'll be free water. And what they did in Vermont, which I shared a couple of times, is the health department opened free clinics because everyone was contaminated from their water, right? So I did not drink any of it. I did not get the free water or the free, because the majority did, though. Okay, so that was a test example that already happened in Vermont, which is why I'm using my location to explain this chart. So examples of people with that degree of Satis the sea monster is also important. Remember, Satis the sea monster has to do with shipwrecks, wrecking your ship of life, okay? So John Lennon had his ascendant at that degree. What happened to John Lennon? JFK had his descendant at that degree. What happened to JFK, allegedly? The Prince Andrew, Duke of York, has his midheaven at that degree. Who knows what's going on with that guy, but the eclipse is going to fall right on his midheaven, if he's even still a human. I mean, I don't know, and I don't really follow those people. Marilyn Monroe had her part of fortune at that degree, which means that it was on JFK's descendant. Very interesting. And Charles II of England also has his part of fortune at that degree, which is the midheaven of Prince Andrew. See how this is all worked out already. Certain people have certain degrees in their chart. The moon at that degree, examples are Ellen DeGeneres and Jeffrey Dahmer. Both have the moon at that degree. And I remember Jeffrey Dahmer's chart quite well because the Galactic Shaman Astrologers and I did that chart. And he had a very sad moon situation at that degree with Mars conjunct the moon. So he was afflicted. The other person that has a planet or had a planet at that degree, again, I don't know whether these people are dead or they just moved to South America, is Joseph Mengele, had Venus at that degree. Monica Lewinsky had Mars at that degree. She and Joseph would have been an interesting pair because when you have Venus and your Mars together, you have a good sex life. So Joseph Mengele and Monica Lewinsky would have had good sex, just so you know. North node at that degree is Nikola Tesla, Queen Victoria. The south node at that degree is Nancy Pelosi, that sea monster, that that terrible shipwreck person. Yes, okay. So that degree where the sun, moon, and Chiron are going to be for this eclipse is a sea monster shipwreck degree. Then again, the ascendant degree for my location, which also has Juno there, which is an asteroid, is the poisonous dragon that pollutes rivers and air. So I'm giving you this up front. Some of my astrology students who are watching my old videos, they're like, oh my gosh, Lalita, you were spot on. Like, how did you know that? And I had told you back when I did the Gemini eclipse and I was going like this and I had a painting like that right next to me, I said it's going to have something to do with twins, just like the Twin Towers. Well, it was the Twin Cities and it was somebody who couldn't breathe and they create, allegedly. Okay, so I don't, you know, I'm just the astrologer, people. I don't know what actually happened, but there, you know, people in the Twin Cities told me that there were cars without without license plates, with strange drivers who were not from the area driving around. There were vans without windows. There were people being bussed in. There was an event that was created to distract. Okay, and it had something to do with the ability to breathe and twin. In this chart, it has something to do with water everywhere, poisonous water, and then what that poisonous water does not make a geometric aspect to is this shipwreck sea monster belly of the sea monster Satis in the 8th house of death. Mercury, the ruler of the ascendant, is conjunct Eris. So what we have to do whenever we're going to kind of put our consciousness on it, our focus on it, is Mercury's conjunct Eris. Acknowledge something that needs to be acknowledged. What is the elephant in the room? Or in this case, what is the sea monster in the room that we all need to keep our eyes on? That's the way I would talk about that. And in terms of the year of dragon, you know, it's somber nature, it's penetrating mind. We have to recognize that something about the soil, because there's a grand trine in earth, and this mutable water everywhere is what we need to put our focus on. We need to use our awareness to understand what the potentials are and not entangle with it, meaning don't drink the free water, people. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to show you. And that's kind of how I do magic too. So I wanted to show you that. The other thing I wanted to show you, because someone had a question from my last video about what is a gate, and I couldn't answer it because there's a lot of different ways to answer that, and it's far too long to like me text on my like one finger typing, like, because people, I'm not very good at technology, and I can't like type a big huge explanation. If I'm doing something that large, it's like copied and pasted because I can't do it very quickly. But a gate looks like this. That's a gate. Okay, a gate. And this particular gate has the gate of the gods, which I wrote about in my blog, and the gate of man. So not only does it have a star Merkaba with sextiles the entire way around the outside of the chart, but it is the sun at the snake handler Ophiuchi, Eta Ophiuchi, or Sabik, the right knee of the snake handler. Sabik means the preceding one, or the one arriving first in the race. So that is the gate of the gods. This is a particular person's chart. And then the Nessus on the opposite to that is at Cursa and Rigel, which is the gate of man. That's a variable star of an argumentative nature with destructiveness and self-seeking. That Nessus is called the Long River, the snake constellation Eridanus, Cursa, and Rigel. Rigel is called the giant's footstool. So this chart has the gate of the gods and gate of man. So when I say don't open the gates for the Nephilim, I have warned some of my clients that they are walking stargates. It means that if you are that, you should be aware that, you know, you are the gate. And yes, there are gates and areas and locations in the realm also that act as stargates. I've researched the different portals from Miami and Florida in general. But individuals would have to be standing on those stargates who have geometries of the stargate to open the gate. And that's what I meant by that comment. Okay, we're doing good, 23 minutes. So then in the year of head, I was talking to Claude while we were walking the other day, like, how can I explain magic? Like, how will I be able to do this without informing AI what we're up to? But AI has its own techniques, so I'm going to just give some examples from my life. Claude knows all these stories, and he's upstairs trying not to listen to me right now with his earplugs because I'm always talking. He's very patient with me. But so I'm going to give you an example that happened in 1988, a year of the dragon, okay? So in 1988, I'm going to make it real personal about me, so I'm not talking about anybody else's magical stories they've shared with me. In 1988, I was taking certain exams, the SAT, the ACT, IQ tests, a whole bunch of tests that I had to take in order to receive merit to go to undergraduate school. The way that I took tests is, they give you the number 2 pencil and you have to sit at a desk, and the test is really long and you have to work a whole bunch of things out, and you do often have to write an essay or something. Throughout high school, I realized that what they were requiring of us was totally back to front, upside down, backwards, not the true history, a complete lie. And so I was very resistant to answering their questions. I did not like multiple choice exams because the question that they were asking me was wrong, and all of the answers were also wrong because the question was wrong. So just take history. We know that our history is a complete lie. And, if they're asking you something about, the gold miners in California of the late 1800s, and you know that that's a complete lie because you've done this incarnation wheel again and again and again. There were no gold miners in California. So the way that I took a test when I had to take a big multiple choice exam like that, I would look at it and go, oh gosh, this is so grueling to be asked a stupid question and then reply with a stupid answer. So the way I would take a test is I would sit down and I would look at it and I would go and I would do my breathing, like slow down my breath, tap into my unconscious mind, and then I would take my pencil, like my magic wand, literally, and I would go down through and I would say, what answer does the test want? And I would answer what the test wanted. Not what was the right answer, not what was the right question, but what does the test want? And then I would go through and I would just answer, even very hardcore mathematical questions, I would answer because some of my clients who are mathematicians know that the math is all wrong too. So you know who you are, and we've talked about this. The math is all wrong too, folks. So even if they're answering or asking you a science question, all the science is wrong too. So when I'm doing those kind of questions, I'm saying, what does the test want? And then I, as an oracle, will go through and answer. So I've just told you something really incredible. I have my transcript. I did really great. I have high honor. I went to school on a scholarship. I went to my graduate school on a fellowship. I always finished with high honors, even if it was written exams or oral exams. So it's not just the multiple choice exam. But let me tell you something. I was always done first, and I always had one of the highest test scores. And that's because I would start the whole process going, this is the wrong question, and none of these answers are correct. They're all lies. So I would go, what answer does the test want? And then I would go through. So did I graduate with honors? Yes, I did. But I hate all of those stupid multiple choice exams. And when I was a teacher, my kind of teaching was like cooperative learning and hands-on learning. And then we would do a play about it. And the kids would make little puppets and they would act out the play. And that was how I did it. I let them be interactive and creative and then act out a play and write the play, direct the play, act in the play for younger children. And I did win a lot of awards as a teacher, but I could not teach to the test because the test was incorrect. And that tells you a lot about this place and how magic is done. Because if you're asking the wrong question, and then, if the question is wrong and you're scrambling to answer a question that doesn't have truth in it, your magic is not going to work. So you have to ask the right question. What does the test want? Not when was Napoleon whatever in 18 whatever, because all time is made up. All the dates have been made up. All history has been made up. So if you're trying to use magic with the wrong question, that right there is how your magic gets messed up. You have to know the right question. And that is going to lead us into Gnosticism, right? Our direct knowing, our direct perception, our knowing that comes from within us. And often I do that by, first of all, asking the right question. Now, in an IQ exam, I got to tell you something. I scored so high that my teachers and everybody took me into the back room, into the counseling, and I had to meet with some weird person that came to the school. Again, what are they testing for in an IQ exam? What are they really testing for? Can you answer that math question correctly? Yes. How did you answer that math question is what they're testing for. You see, because all the math is wrong, so I won't do it. So I got to pre-calculus, and I did astronomy in college, and I was like, this calculus is all wrong. This is totally being calculated incorrectly because, of course, the astronomers thought that we were in a heliocentric model, and we are not in a heliocentric model. So I couldn't answer it that way. I had to answer it another way by asking the right question. What does the test want? And let me tell you, when you are studied for a high IQ, they want to know how you came up with the answers. Don't tell them. That's the magic right there, is that they're going to realize, because they said, well, how come if you can answer this test, you only have an 88 average? You know, when I was in high school, I just did not care. And plus, I was always abducted, so I had a very hard time giving a crap about school. But that tells you something about magic right there and what these tests are really testing for. And the ones who really do well on those tests, it's because they know the math is all wrong, so they also do it like an oracle like me, just so you know. And the people who are chosen for reading the plasma mirror, what is that thing called, that little plasma mirror? It was in his Dark Materials where the little girl Lyra could read that special machine thing that would spin around, but she had to ask the right question. Okay, it's the same thing with the plasma mirror. I forgot the name of that thing. Project Looking Glass. You have to be a high-level being, like a spiritual being, with your spirit intact, so you're not a fragmented person under cytronic control, because you watch too many Netflix movies, which are all cytronics. But you have to be able to read the looking glass, the plasma glass. So the elites can't read it. They have to find kids, readers, who can read because they have pure hearts and because they're very strong as magicians or oracles. And this is embarrassing for me to even talk to you about this. But this is how magic has to be done, folks. You have to have the right question. That's the same with Gnosticism. You have to ask the right question. A lot of what's going on with the distraction in the external world is to keep you from asking the right question. And that's with the astrology too. I will read the astrology in a totally different way than the 14 million other astrologers out there, because I'm feeling it first. First, I feel it intuitively. What's coming? What do I feel? What do I sense? And then I ask the right question. It has to do with water. Water everywhere. I wonder if that asteroid is there. And it popped into my head, run Washingtonia. So there it is. It's conjunct Nessus, holy crap, within a 3-degree orb. The Susquehanna River, water everywhere. Not a drop to drink. Oh, but here's your free water. Here's your free... Just come on over and get it. I'm warning you right now. Ask the right question. Is that water safe to drink? Not, is it free? Not, is it available? Is it safe? Okay, We are at 34 minutes. We're doing good. So I'm going to give you another example of magic. This is an interactive magic. So, and again, this is very private stuff for me, but I'm going to share a little bit of my private life and hope that you will all respect it. And then I will start to see from your comments of whether you really can respect this as to whether I'm going to go further with teaching magic. Actually, this is a test for you to see if you're asking the right questions. So when my older daughter was a little girl, we went to Nova Scotia often. I loved Nova Scotia. And we were up there when she was about 6 or 7 years old. And she hadn't lived near the water. She didn't spend a lot of time near the ocean. She didn't spend a lot of time near ponds even. We had a little brook in the backyard, but that was her, water experience. She played in the brook. She was not used to having a lake near her or anything like that. So when we went up to Nova Scotia in Digby, in the Bay of Fundy, there was like a community celebration thing where they had lots of contests and games for kids. One of them was scallop skipping. And I'm going to try and transmit this story with like vision so that you can see what I'm seeing. So try to use your inner vision right now. So here's a little girl with little braids in her hair, has never thrown anything into the water because she was not near a lake. She didn't grow up next to a big pond where you know how to skip rocks or something like that. She's a little girl, 6 or 7 years old, not from the area. But she wanted to play. She wanted to have a contest. So I'm over here holding my baby, and she is taken out on the dock and given a big scallop. And my daughter is used to this with me because we always had telepathy and different kinds of magical interactions together. She looked at me, and I looked at her, and the sparkle in my eye did the sparkle, and I said, okay, go. I shook my head. She shook her head back at me in agreement. And then she tossed that scallop. Now, this is a child who's never done it before. And she tossed the scallop, and it went. See it? Yeah, did you see it? I did too. And that's how it works. She gave me consent. We did it together. We had an intention to let that scallop fly as far as possible. I saw it in my inner eye and went all the way across so far that people started to go like, what the heck is going on? Like gasping, holy crap. Now, I don't usually do public appearances like that of magical things, but it was just a cute little thing that I was doing with my daughter, and she won, of course. But I'm telling you, something happened. She realized that magic had just happened, and she kind of didn't know what to say, and I didn't know what to say. I knew that we had just put on like a major public display, and in the old days, right, I would have been more careful about that because they would have grabbed me and my daughter and said they're witches. Did you see what just happened? They're not even from here. This woman doesn't even eat seafood. Her child has never touched a scallop shell. Like, how did that happen, right? But it's like that. And it is also like there's no grasping to it. Like, it wasn't with my conscious mind wanting to win some little plastic trophy of a scallop, I was playful. I didn't have really there wasn't much at stake to that. It was just a fun thing, but it was focus, it was intention, it was inner vision. See that thing? Skip, 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 skip. And that is how magic is done. It's playful. It's not grasping. And the same thing even when I was taking my tests, and I also took my graduate record exam like that to get into graduate school and had a fellowship. It's not that I cheated, folks. it's that as an oracle, that is actually how you have to do this game. This game and the questions that they ask us. So all of you who have kids trying to take these stupid exams, my kids knew that this was all backwards, upside down. They were just pleasing the teacher. They were just taking the test for what the test wanted as an answer. But if you tell your children to take a breath, slow down your breath, don't be so nervous while you take this exam, just use your pencil as a magic wand, don't grasp it being correct. See, I wasn't grasping it even caring whether I passed the exam or not, because I wasn't a person like that. I was playful. I always finish first. I would slam down my pencil and walk out, and they'd be like, oh my gosh, and I try and like sit, but because I have so much fire in my chart, I couldn't sit. Like, I had to get up and move fast because it makes my body tingle and different things like that happen. I'm kind of fiery inside, and that's where my magic comes from. So 40 minutes, we did it. That is the Year of the Dragon. That's my introduction to magic. With the Bog group, I'm going to keep it very small, so it's closed. I have enough people in it right now to really concentrate and focus, but we'll do more. And I thank you all for writing Bog and trying to get in. This particular Skype room is closed for now, but hopefully we'll have more. Okay, enjoy the Year of the Dragon.